All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about maybe one of the most ambitious goals in human history, the quest to build artificial general intelligence, or AGI. And right at the heart of that mission is a company called DeepMind. And their story, well, it's about a lot more than just writing code. It's about completely changing the way we discover things.
To really get a feel for the stakes here, you just have to listen to how the people actually building this stuff talk about it. We are not talking about a new app or some fancy gadget. No, no. This quote from someone deep inside the project puts it on the same level as the invention of electricity or even fire. That's the scale we're dealing with. That's our starting point. So, how does a mission this massive even get off the ground? Well, it all starts with an idea that frankly sounded like total science fiction, dreamed up by two people who were completely and utterly obsessed. And here's the wild part. Back when they started, the very term AI was almost a joke in serious academic circles. Seriously, if you said you were working on it, people kind of looked at you funny like you weren't a serious scientist. So Demis and Shane were chasing this dream that was seen as fringe, almost embarrassing.
Just try to imagine this for a second. You walk into a room full of investors, and this is your pitch. No product, no business plan, just this one simple, unbelievably huge goal. We're gonna solve intelligence. The sheer audacity of that is it's hard to wrap your head around.
And this just perfectly captures the wall they kept hitting. They're in there pitching a revolution that will change humanity forever. And the response they get is this super practical, skeptical question. They got this kind of reaction all the time because their vision was just so far beyond what anyone was used to. Finding money was a huge, huge struggle.
But they did get the funding, and they started their work in secret. Now, to prove their radical ideas could actually work, they needed a training ground, and they found the perfect one in, of all places, old video games. So the secret sauce behind their whole approach was this idea called reinforcement learning. Honestly, the easiest way to think about it is like training a puppy. You don't give the puppy an instruction manual, right? It just tries stuff. And when it does something you want, it gets a treat. Over time, it figures it out. Well, DeepMind's AI agent does the exact same thing, but its world is a video game, and its treat is a higher score.
So here's the really mind-blowing part. The AI, which they called DQN, wasn't told any of the rules of the game. It was just given access to the raw pixels on the screen, control of the paddle, and one single goal. Make that number at the top of the screen go up. That's it. Everything else it figured out on its own, just by playing millions and millions of games. And this is where the magic really happened. So after it totally crushed Pong, they let it loose on the game Breakout. And after playing for a while, it didn't just get good. It discovered a strategy that expert human players use. You know, digging a tunnel through the side to get the ball stuck behind the wall. It came up with that all by itself. This was the moment they knew they were onto something huge. They proved that a general learning system could not just learn, but actually discover new knowledge. Okay, so with that huge success under their belt, DeepMind aimed for something much, much bigger. A game that was considered the absolute pinnacle of human strategic thought, a challenge that most experts thought a machine wouldn't be able to conquer for decades. You know, computers beat the best human chess player way back in 1997. But Go is a whole different animal. Chess is mostly about calculation and raw power. Go is about intuition, about feeling. The number of possible moves in Go is larger than the number of atoms in the known universe. You just can't brute force your way through it. You have to understand it on a deeper level. This was a giant leap. And so the stage was set for this absolutely monumental showdown in Seoul, South Korea. DeepMind's creation, AlphaGo, versus Lee Sedol, a guy who was basically the Roger Federer of the Go world. It was a massive global event, with hundreds of millions of people watching this epic man-versus-machine battle. Then, in the second game, something happened that nobody saw coming. AlphaGo made a move 37, that was so bizarre, so alien, that experts later calculated the odds of a human master ever playing it were just 1 in 10,000. The commentators were just stunned. At first, they thought it was a mistake, a rookie error. But as the game went on, everyone realized it wasn't a mistake at all. It was a stroke of absolute genius. The AI had found a new piece of wisdom in a game humans had been perfecting for 3,000 years. It was beautiful, it was creative, and it was completely non-human. In the end, Lee Sedol lost the match, 4-1, and that victory sent a shockwave across the entire planet. It really was a Sputnik moment. It was this undeniable signal that a new, incredibly powerful technology had finally arrived. And almost overnight, it kicked off a global AI race, with governments and companies just pouring billions of dollars into development. So after conquering Go, DeepMind had proved its point about games. The next logical step? Take these incredible algorithms out of the digital world and aim them at one of the biggest, most fundamental challenges in all of biology. They went after something called the protein folding problem. I know, it sounds technical, but here's the gist. Proteins are basically the tiny machines that make life work. But for them to work, they have to fold into a very specific 3D shape. For 50 years, scientists have been trying to predict that shape just by looking at the sequence of amino acids. If you could solve that, it would be an absolute game changer for medicine. Their first try, back in 2018, was a bit humbling. They won the big competition, sure, but as one scientist put it, they were just the best in the world at a problem the world's not good at. The results weren't quite useful enough. So they went back to square one, completely redesigned the system, and came back in 2020. This time, wow, they didn't just win, they solved it. So after this incredible breakthrough, what do? They took their system, now called AlphaFold, and used it to predict the structure of almost every single known protein on Earth. We're talking more than 200 million of them, just an unimaginably huge encyclopedia of biological information. And then they gave it all away. They released the entire database and all the code to the world, for free. This one act is accelerating scientific research all over the globe, helping scientists create new drugs and understand diseases in ways that were just impossible a few years ago. So you go from a fringe idea that people kind of laughed at, to mastering the world's most complex game, to solving one of the grand challenges of science. What does this whole journey tell us about the future we're all stepping into, as AGI shifts from science fiction to something very, very real? What we're really seeing is the emergence of a new kind of mind. On one hand, you have this incredible tool that can literally out-invent human experts, something that could help us solve huge problems like disease and climate change. But on the other hand, it's a force so powerful that people are comparing it to the Manhattan Project. It's a technology with unbelievable promise, but it also demands an insane amount of care and responsibility. And that really brings us to the final and most important question. The arrival of an intelligence greater than our own is probably going to be the single biggest event in the history of our species. It's going to create a dividing line in time. There's before and there's after. The challenge for every single one of us is to start thinking right now about what we want that after to look like.